All right, here's the question to open up the hour. Do the police merit special treatment in our society? I'm talking about this story. You may have heard about it. And if you haven't, I'll fill you in a moment about the cop that went into Starbucks, wanted to use the bathroom. Apparently, he really needed to use the bathroom, but they wouldn't let him use the bathroom because he wasn't a paying customer. And people were just scandalized by this. They thought, how dare you do that to a police officer? Well, why? Why should a cop be different from anybody else? I mean, the girl, they told the girl she had rules to abide by. And one of the rules was we don't start letting non-paying customers use the bathroom. But the guy was a cop. Well, so what? Am I missing the mark here somehow? You tell me. Number 663-1270. Would love to hear from you. Jim Walsh on Supertalk 1270 and supertalk1270.com. Oh, boy. Nice, cool, crisp, refreshing fall day. Now, my iPhone said it was supposed to hit 90 today. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know what's going on with the weather thingy on my phone, but it sure doesn't feel like 90 degrees right now. It feels fantastic. I'm not complaining at all. Although, of course, you are starting to feel that little ominous sense of the cold weather to come. Yeah, there. I went and said it. I went and jinxed us. Now we're going to have winter. we wouldn't have otherwise, right? Yeah, we're starting to feel that hazy shade of winter. Thank you, Paul Simon, wherever you are. So let's get back to the story here. Was he entitled to special treatment at Starbucks? Now, this did not happen in Bismarck, okay? I want to clarify that, but it's a good question. And the number is 663-1270. I saw this post on Facebook yesterday. I think one of my cousins posted it. About a policeman who was denied special treatment at a Starbucks and cited the ordeal as just one more example of, quote, rampant disrespect for police among young people, unquote. And the post has been shared. It's gone semi-viral, I guess you'd say. It's been shared about 14,000 times. And it drew a response from Starbucks, which sort of a non-apology apology. They promise to ensure that this doesn't happen in the future, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to read this to you. This is the post in its entirety. This is what it says, and then we're going to talk about it. All right, here it is. I'm going to read it exactly as it was posted on my page. I didn't post it. Somebody else posted it, and it was there. And here we go. So I walk into the Starbucks at 13th and Chestnut in full uniform and ask the young blonde liberal behind the counter if I could use their public bathroom, for which you need a key code. And she states in a loud voice so all the other customers can hear that the bathroom is for paying customers only. I then ask in a very polite manner if I could please use it. She then states in the same loud manner and a smirk, "Are you a paying customer?" It was at this point that I realized what she was doing. As I walked out with my hand up, while she continued loudly to tell me about the bathroom down the street, I was even more astonished that the many customers and other employees said nothing and seemed indifferent. This is the world cops live in anymore. It's hip for this generation to berate and totally disrespect cops in front of the public and praise cop killers as the heroes of their time. I never post things, but I hope my fellow brothers and sisters in blue see this and know that we have each other and not to patronize that Starbucks. By the way, the Starbucks you're talking about, I understand, is in Philadelphia, 13th and Chestnut in Philly. All right. But there you go. There's the statement. Now, the first thing that popped in my head was, I wonder if this is real. You know, a lot of times people make this stuff up and they post it just for, I don't know why, gits and shiggles, so to speak. But the other thing, I'm looking at this, and why would you take something like this and take it at its word? Maybe it happened this way. Maybe it didn't. Maybe the cop was a butthead about it. Maybe he was the butthead here. But here's the thing. All these people are responding to this like it's such a terrible thing. And, the young people, these young people today, these whippersnappers, they all get off my lawn and respect the cop. It's the same old crap we've been hearing for years now. Outrageous, they say. Now, it is obviously possible that this girl, this employee, was ruder than she needed to be. But I highly doubt that she originated the paying customer only policy. We're going to assume for the moment that this actually happened, okay? We don't know that, but we're going to assume it. I doubt very highly that this girl made up this rule just off the top of her head. And the fact is, assuming that the rule was in place, this girl could have gotten in a lot of trouble for violating the policy, maybe lost her job. Now, if the girl had let the cop use the bathroom and lost her job as a result, how many of these outraged people responding to this posting, how many of them would give her anything more than a pat on the back, if that? Yeah, hooray for the girl, What are you going to do to get her job back? Well, nothing. We're just going to say hooray for the girl. Now, what's interesting about this, as we pick it apart ever so daintily, the officer here is not arguing that the policy is wrong. He's arguing that he deserves an exemption from it by virtue of being a cop. By the way, number here is 663-1270. He's not asking for cops to be treated with the same respect that all people deserve. No, he's asserting that cops deserve blanket and above beyond respect by virtue of their badges. Sorry, I don't go for that. I don't go for that. And this whole notion that that there's a war on police in this country, it's ridiculous. Remember, you can't judge what's going on in the whole world by a handful of stories you see on the evening news. That's not how the world works. You would think we would all understand that by now, but no. A couple of think tanks, including one very prominent conservative think tank, and I mention that because it's relevant to the argument, because you would think a conservative think tank would try to come to the opposite conclusion, the pro-cop conclusion. But no, they actually said in 2008, you were 12 times more likely to be killed just living in the city of New Orleans than wearing a badge. And by the way, things have gotten a little better in New Orleans. They've increased the number of police, which is a good thing, which is fine. But the bottom line is that being a cop, you're actually safer statistically than a lot of people. It's safer to be a cop than it is to be a fisherman. Safer to be a cop than it is to be a logger, pilot, roofer, miner, trucker, taxi driver. And yes, statistically speaking, you are safer being a policeman than you are being a resident of the city of Baltimore, Maryland. Yeah. So, did this guy really deserve the special treatment he wanted? I say no. Number here, 663-1270. Hey, love to hear from you. Cool 98.7, online cool987fm.com. More conversation, your calls coming up.
Currently 59 degrees.
Get the traffic and weather information you need anytime on Super Talk 1270 and online at supertalk1270.com.
I love a parade. Peter, I can see your house from here. Cool 98.7. Cool. There I go again. I swear, at least once, every time I do this shift, I give the... I work at the Cool station down the hallway. I do the afternoon show now, the early afternoons, 1 to 3, if you're interested. But now you're listening to Super Talk 1270 and supertalk1270.com. Now, you know what they say, you get to my age, the old memory's the second thing to go, right? Oh, we're talking about the story, it's been making the rounds on Facebook about the policeman Supposedly, this happened at a Starbucks in Philadelphia. Policemen went in, wanted to use the bathroom, and they wouldn't let them because they had a policy against allowing non-paying customers to use the bathroom facilities. And some people were just scandalized by this. They thought it was horrible that the cop was treated that way. Just another indication of the lack of respect of today's youth on the police department. What a bunch of malarkey. But it's a good question. Assuming this story actually happened as described, did the guy really deserve that kind of special treatment? I mean, if the girl had actually let him use the bathroom, suppose it was a policy and she let him use the bathroom and they found out and they fired her for it. How many of these people supporting this guy, this policeman, how many of those people would stand up for the girl? Oh, I mean, they give her a lot of lip service. They'd say what a hero she is. But how many of them would actually do anything constructive like find her another job? Probably not that many. Anyway, number here is 663-1270. Did the policeman deserve special treatment? Do police deserve special treatment like this in our society? I say no. I'm not saying you disrespect cops. I'm saying, give them as much respect as you would anybody else. No more, no less. Number here is 663-1270. Okay, my favorite source for stories like this, Snopes.com, the urban legend website. These guys are great. They always have, they always get to the bottom of things. And it turns out they do have an entry for this particular controversy. They just put it there a couple of days ago. This story just came up like Monday, I think. Actually, it came up this past Friday on September 11th, appropriately enough. And very quickly, Snopes.com got on the case and they covered the story. And here's what, again, to refresh your memory, in case you're just tuning in, the story is, this guy posted a story. It was all over Facebook last couple of days. Got a bunch of hits. He went viral or semi-viral. Guy says he walks into a Starbucks and the guy's writing in the first person. And he says, I walked into Starbucks and I asked the girl if I could use the bathroom. And she said, no, you're not a paying customer. And isn't that terrible? And these kids today, they totally berate the police. Blah, 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 blah. Don't go to that Starbucks. Da, 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 da. Well, first of all, it turns out that the guy who posted this, he never said he was the police officer in question, but they later confirmed that the guy was not the police officer in question. He was posting secondhand information to the Starbucks Facebook page, and the post subsequently went viral. I'm sure in part owing to the significance of the date, September 11th. And it didn't specify when the incident occurred, nor did they elaborate on how they came across the story, simply saying that he had deliberately obscured the original poster's name. He said eventually, it wasn't me it happened to. It was a screenshot from a sergeant that happened to. Left his name. I'll have to keep the trolls from crank calling. I wonder if they're trolling Starbucks. And if they are, who's going to stand up for them? Well, the implication here is that a cop was refused access to a Starbucks bathroom because his uniform identified him as law enforcement. Well, the barista's stated reason was that the restroom was for paying customers only. But this guy, who sounds like he's got a real chip on his shoulder to begin with, is claiming that the girl was real smirky and wise-ass in her response. Well, maybe she was and maybe not. And by the way, how do you know she was a liberal? I asked the young blonde liberal behind the counter, how do you know she was a liberal? You don't know she was a liberal. How do you know? I don't like her, therefore she's a liberal. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's real talk radio logic for you. Anyway, because apparently the site frequently allows non-paying homeless into the bathroom. Well, is there any validation on that? Verification? None that I see. Now, some commenters asked precisely what in the account constituted a refusal that was specific to police. To which he responded, because he was in uniform and she berated him. Do you think she berates everyone in her store? Take your anti-police agenda elsewhere. I'm through discussing this with you. Translation, I feel uncomfortable. I don't want to answer that. I mean, come on. I think it sounds to me like this guy's doing a little bit of trolling himself here. Another response, user claiming that this guy, what was his name? Oh, here we go. Now, here's the guy's name, the name of the guy who posted this. Tell me this is not suspicious. The guy's name is, I kid you not, Mr. Lightheart. Yeah, really. The guy who posted this, his name is Lightheart. And again, he's not the policeman. He claims that he saw this happen to another guy who was a policeman. And another user claimed that, well, Mr. Lightheart is not a policeman. He responded, well, I guess genius that he is, that user missed the police uniform I was wearing in the original. Now, okay, he's either a cop or he isn't. First he says he's a cop, then he says he isn't. And Starbucks did issue an apology, and it's not really clear whether they really verified exactly what occurred with anyone other than Mr. Lightheart. Well, there's two issues here. Did it really happen? I doubt it. And should somebody in that situation, if they're a policeman, should they get special consideration? And I say not necessarily. That's between the police and the local establishment. They'll do what they do. Whatever happened to defending the right of businesses to make their own rules and abide by them? If they were refusing to serve gay people, I'm sure these same people would be so totally supportive of Starbucks. But because Starbucks is liberal, and all of a sudden it's a bad thing. Anyway, number here is 663-1270. Jim Walsh on Supertalk 1270 and supertalk1270.com. Former drug czar thinks we should bring back the war on drugs. Well, the war on drugs never really went away. It's been dialed back a bit. Not enough for my taste, but there's this guy, Bill Bennett. He was a drug czar during the Bush years. Before that, I think he was Reagan's Secretary of Education. Anyway, and this guy, this blowhard, he's got a talk show. Yeah, I know, big whoop, right? I mean, look, I've got a talk show. How difficult can it be to get one, Anyway, Bill Bennett says it's time to bring back the war on drugs. They need to approach the drug issue more like the way they did during the Reagan and Bush years, because we all know how well it worked back then. Yeah, attack the supply. And, of course, you might remember during the Bush and Reagan years, there were absolutely no illegal drugs to be found anywhere on the street or anywhere else. Just there was nobody having a problem with that. Right? Right. Yeah, attack the supply. This guy Bennett, he sticks in my craw. He was the guy who wrote that stupid, the Book of Virtues came out a few years ago. These conservatives, they write these books on virtues. It's funny, of all the virtues they write about, patriotism, reverence for God, respect for authority, whatever happened to the virtue of minding your own damn business? Funny, he never got around to addressing that virtue in his book that he claims to have written. He probably hired some yo-yo to write it for him. Probably hired Michelle Malkin or somebody like that to write his book. Well, no, you wouldn't hire Malkin because she can't write. I think Malkin would have enough trouble reading the book, let alone writing it. But yeah, they hired somebody like that to write the book. But anyway, you know what they say? It's like the old proverbial thing about the piece of fecal matter floating in the pond. You can't sink it. No matter what you do, you put your foot on it, sink it, you throw a rock at it, it always just bobs back up to the surface. And so it is with people like Bill Bennett. All right. Super Talk 12. I almost said it again. I almost said the wrong call letters again. Super Talk 1270 and supertalk1270.com. What is this, a gong show already? Coming up, Americans are leaving religion. America is becoming less religious. I say, yay! It's about damn time. We'll get to that and other topics in just a moment here at Super Talk 1270. More conversation, your calls coming up.
Currently 59 degrees.
Get the app called Radio Pup for your iPhone and take us everywhere you go. Bismarck and Mandan's own Super Talk 1270.
Oh, back to the mythological war on cops for a moment. If there really is a war on cops, whoever is fighting it seems to be losing big time. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. You know, if a cop doesn't get to use the bathroom in Starbucks, it doesn't mean there's a nationwide war on police, you know. Hey, these young people today. Didn't we get our fill of that crap in the 60s? Well, these young people today, this world we live in. How very imaginative and original. All right, the number here, we're talking about the police and whether they merit special treatment in a place like Starbucks. I don't think they do. I suppose it'd be nice if they did, but you know, if the rule is you can't let non-paying customers use your facilities, then that's a rule. You know, the law is the law. And the number here is 663-1270. Oh, some more stats and figures. I'm not gonna bog you down with statistics here, but you know, we got all this talk these days about the war on police. Oh, when it comes to lethal violence against police officers, nobody's in favor of that, of course. But how exactly does the current year stack up against other years? Well, we mentioned the American Enterprise Institute, which is a right-wing think tank. They took a look at the annual numbers of police who died from non-accidental gunshots. And obviously the year isn't over yet, but assuming the trend thus far continues, the 2015 rate will be higher than 2013. It will also be lower than every other year since 1870. Now, the trend may look a little different if you added the cop killings committed with other weapons like knives, cars, bombs, but probably not drastically so from what I'm seeing here. But the pattern is overwhelming overall in this general period of time. The U.S. police fatalities per 1 million population, starting right after the Civil War, is more or less at an all-time low. Now, nobody's saying that's not a good thing. Of course it's a good thing. We don't want people getting mowed down on the street, whether they're cops or not. All I'm saying is let's have a little perspective on this stuff. There is no nationwide war on police. And if there is, the police are winning. And that's great. But still, if you don't go into a Starbucks and expect them to break their rules and put their job at risk just because you're a cop. That's all I'm saying. Number is 663-1270. Jim Walsh on Super Talk 1270. North Dakota traffic deaths top 100 this year, on pace to exceed last year. Now, really, in the scheme of things, 100 fatalities is not a lot. I know if you're the friend or loved one of someone who was killed, it's probably a cold comfort to you. But the fact is, we got 3.5 months left to go in the year. And North Dakota has recorded more than 100 traffic fatalities and is on pace for one of the deadliest years on the state's roadways in recent history. And, of course, the question is why? Well, I think we all know why. There's more cars on the road. There's more traffic out there because of the oil thing primarily. And there may be other factors, but there's more traffic on the road. When there's more traffic on the road, you're probably going to have more fatalities. What do we do about it? I'll be hanged if I know. See, I always told you I wouldn't lie to you. Never lied to you, and I'm not going to lie to you now. I don't know what the hell the answer is. Higher fines for speeding. Maybe that could help. Maybe not. It has helped in some places. It hasn't in others. You want to get into the elasticity of fines for speeding? I don't know. May work, it may not. Personally, I think we got way too many old people on the road. Yeah, get them geezers off the road, you know. Well, a big part of the problem is we have, on a more serious note, we have kind of a clash going on right now between the old type of North Dakota driver, the guy who just kind of loops along, and these newfangled drivers coming in from out of the state who tend to be, they tend to want to get somewhere in a hurry. And there's kind of a cultural clash between the two. Eventually, I think it'll work itself out. As older generations die off, new generations come of age. It's not going to happen overnight, though. But I really think that has a lot to do with it. And about the only thing sometimes the only thing you can do about a problem is just wait a while for it to resolve itself. Then, of course, if you're a politician, you can take all the credit for having resolved it. But that's it. I mean, we're Americans. Americans like to think we have a solution for everything. A lot of times we do, but sometimes the key to fixing something is just to leave it alone for a while and just let it resolve itself. And that's what I'm thinking here. Does that bother you? Does that go again? Does that sound un-American to you? Number here, 663-1270. You can also comment on the website, supertalk1270.com. And by all means, do like us and join us for the ongoing conversation on the Facebook site as well at facebook.com/supertalk1270. Americans are leaving religion. Why are we still subsidizing it? Title of an article from the Washington Post. Basically goes into the arguments in favor of taxing churches, which have been around for a lot of years. And the fact is, religious faith of all types is on the decline in this country. We're kind of catching up with the rest of the Western world. I think it's safe to say the most recent Great Awakening is over. The evangelistic fervor that accompanied the 80s in this country is pretty much faded away, for now at least. And that kind of brings us to the arguments for taxing churches. Well, my feeling is if you're going to start getting political in the pulpit, then you should be paying taxes. It's as simple as that. You can't have it both ways. Recent polling shows, 663-1270, recent polling shows that almost 1 in 4 Americans and more than 1/3 of those aged 18 to 33 now claim no religious affiliation. The millennials, the younger folks, do have a very cynical outlook on organized religion. Some of them describe themselves as more spiritual than religious, whatever that may entail. And it's easy to understand why. Now, back in the day when pretty much everybody... by the way, did you hear the story out of Nashville, Tennessee, about the scandal involving the mayor of Nashville? The mayor, I think it's a lady, and her opponents who are trying to field a candidate to run against her said a terrible thing about her. They said she's an atheist. And, of course, she very quickly denied that she's an atheist. Apparently she's not. But nobody thought to ask the question, why should it matter? Really, why should it matter? Would you vote for an atheist for mayor? Well, sure. I'm not going to vote them because they're an atheist. Let's put it this way. I will not vote against them because they're an atheist. I'd kind of like to hear where they stand on the issues. That is kind of important to me. All things being equal, I'm not just going to give favor to somebody because of their... I'd say all things being equal, I might kind of lean toward the atheistic position because, there's a lot less likelihood to be any monkey shines involving sucking up to the religious right types. But I'm certainly not going to vote against somebody because of their faith or their lack thereof. That's ridiculous. Come on, 21st century people. We're talking already about colonizing Mars, and still in a major city in this country, we've got somebody who's in danger of being voted out of office simply because they don't follow the predominant faith of the local population. I mean, how goofy is that? I mean, come on. If Ireland can get divorced, If the Pope can say some of the things that he said in the last year or so, I think the mayor of Nashville, they should cut this lady a break. Come on. Come on. Ridiculous. And yeah, tax the churches. You know, you church guys out there, if you're going to start talking politics, you're going to start telling us how to vote, then I think that, let's say you pay your taxes, you pay your fair share just like everybody else. Parsonage exemption is what we're talking about. Under current tax law, ministers of the gospel, whatever that may entail, may deduct virtually all costs associated with housing from their income. Yeah, at the worst, you get, some people would argue that it subsidizes, like the televangelists with their multi-million dollars estates. But in a more ordinary context, which I think is what we're talking about here, I mean, this is my concern, it allows, it represents a benefit running to organized religion that they really don't deserve. Look, I'm saying, hey, you want to talk about politics? Fine. You want to tell us how you think we should vote? Fine. Then you pay your taxes like the rest of us. That's all I'm saying. Now, does that constitute a... Now, does that mean the government is subsidizing the churches? Well, I suppose you could argue it that way. I personally don't like the idea that if you don't tax somebody, you're somehow giving them the money. I mean, you know, whose money is it to begin with? If I have money and you don't take it away, does that mean that you're giving me a handout? No, I don't agree with that. I would not call it subsidizing the churches, but I would say that, if we got to pay these taxes, and taxes are, unfortunately, a necessary evil in this society, and you're going to have these church folks offering their opinions on the major issues of the day, then let them pay their taxes like the rest of us. That's all I'm saying. Have your cake, eat it, one or the other. Can't have both ways. 663-1270. Jim Walsh on Super Talk 1270 and supertalk1270.com.
Right now, 64.
Our own radio station. Not Fargo, not the Twin Cities. Proud to be Bismarck and Mandan's own Super Talk 1270.
Throw out your hands, stick out your tush, hand on your hips, give 'em a push. You'll be surprised you're doing the French mistake. Voila!
Yeah, but not in Kentucky.
Come on, try it, move those feet along.
Yeah.
50 million Frenchmen can't be wrong.
Whee!
Throw out your hands, stick out your tush, hand on your hips, give 'em a push. You'll be surprised you're doing the French mistake. Voila!
Yes. Sounds like steam escaping. Oh, yes, and now the thieving magpie. I've had too much coffee. Supertalk 1270, supertalk1270.com. Jim Walsh winding down. Yeah, why shouldn't the churches pay taxes? Why not? Hey, First Amendment. Oh, yeah, now you're going to evoke the First Amendment. Yeah, right. Sure. Religious freedom, yeah. Sure you are. Let's see here. Should America take more Syrian refugees? Well, yeah, I mean, we kind of started the problem. Yeah, like the Vietnam thing. We had a lot to do with that problem, so yeah, it was only fair that we take... of course, back then it was a different thing because we were taking these Vietnamese refugees, and all the conservatives loved it because it was a black guy, too, the communist. See, that was like with Reagan. By the way, the number here is 663-1270. Yeah. People talk about Reagan being pro-immigrant, and he was right to be. But, of course, the reason he was pro-immigrant, I got my tang all tangled up today. I can't see what I'm saying. Twisted around my eye tooth there, but no, the reason Reagan was so big on the pro-immigrant thing was because at the time it tied directly in with the idea of giving faith and comfort to the people who were trying to escape communism. But if they're not trying to escape communism, they're just coming here from other countries. Apparently, we don't want anything to do with them. I don't believe what I'm hearing. Jim, you're on the radio. You're a talk show host. You're doing talk radio. You're supposed to be against immigration. No, I'm supposed to be doing what I'm doing, which is expressing my personal opinion on things. But you're not a good conservative. No, I'm not. I never said I was. What are you, liberal? Well, by liberal, you mean somebody who thinks for himself, and maybe I am, you know. Starbucks. Starbucks iced coffee. And no, I didn't ask to use the bathroom while I was there, although I could have since I was a paying customer. All right. Winding down here, a couple of things I came across online. The top 10 worst songs you can play at a funeral. I love this. That'd be a topic. We could do a whole day on that topic. What are the worst songs to play at your funeral? My favorite, of course, was another one. Another one bites the dust. Yeah, I made a list. The top 10 worst songs to play at a person's funeral. Another one bites the dust was one. Well, what's another one? The Celebration by Kool and the Gang. There was an old jazz song from the 50s. I think one of the Fats Waller, one of those guys, they did it called "I'll Be Glad When You're Dead, You Old Rascal You." I want all of Highway to Hell by AC/DC. That was another one. I want all of these songs played at my send-off. I've discussed this very seriously with my wife. I'm not big on the idea of a funeral anyway, but when I go, and knock wood, it won't be for a while yet, but I don't really want a funeral. But if they insist on having one, there's probably not much I'm going to be able to do about it, given the situation I'll be in. Of course, I won't really care much one way or the other, will I? But if they're going to have a funeral, then I've insisted. I've told my wife this. I want a New Orleans jazz funeral. I want a bunch of guys with clarinets. I want the real soulful guy. I don't want these stupid white guys with their striped barber shirts, like the Firehouse. I want the guys who play the real soulful stuff, the real good stuff. I want black musicians. I want African-American musicians playing New Orleans-style jazz, the real deal, the authentic New Orleans jazz at my funeral. If you're going to do it, I told her, if you're going to do it, I mean, I'd love to see you do it, but if you're going to do it right. Don't get a bunch of white guys. Get a bunch of guys who actually know how to play it. Or maybe get the Preservation Hall guys. They're really good if you can afford them. One of those guys is from North Dakota, Preservation Hall Jazz Band. Yeah, they're really good. It'd be great if they could play my funeral. Anyway, that'd be kind of up to them. Or else just throw on a record. Whatever. Like I say, it's not really going to matter to me one way or the other. The other thing is I intend to be cremated, and I sincerely hope that my cremation plays out very much like the closing scene of the movie The Big Lebowski. If you saw it, you know what I'm talking about. The guy dies, and they cremate him, and they take him up to the mountain off the coast of Big Sur in California, and they're going to cast his ashes into the ocean. And I'm not going to spoil it for you. You just have to rent a movie and see what happens if you haven't already. But my dearest, fondest hope is that when I go, they'll take my ashes and they'll dispose of them in a similar manner. And hopefully it'll play out very much like the way it played out in the movie. You'll just have to go see it for yourself. What else to talk about here? Oh, school. I can't believe it. I am less than 100 days away from having a master's degree. And I'm not saying that to boast. I'm just saying that, look, I'm 59 years old. If I can do it, anybody can. Like I was saying earlier about the talk show. If I've got one, how difficult can it really be? So you older guys were thinking, I wonder if I should go back to school. I say, hey, go for it. Yeah, I mean, they're very accommodating. They'll help you any way they can. They love to have the older folks come back and go back to school and finish their degrees and whatnot. I got an associate, I got a bachelor's, and now I'm about to get a master's degree. What the hell I'm going to do with it, I haven't the slightest idea. I think I'd kind of like to keep my hand in the business I'm in now, which is radio. My bachelor's is in marketing, which I think is appropriate because if you know anything about radio is all marketing. It's like saying mathematics is all music, or music is all mathematics, which it is. Music is all mathematics. Well, radio, the business of radio broadcasting, is all about marketing. That's really all it is. That and the engineering, the technical side of it, which I know nothing about. Which, by the way, if you're thinking about getting into broadcasting or if you have a child or grandchild, tell them this. If you want a really hassle-free job, don't become a disc jockey or a talk show host. Become an engineer. Engineers have a big advantage in my line of work because nobody really knows what the hell it is they do. They're like lawyers. They've surrounded themselves with this shroud of mystery. Nobody understands how exactly they do what they do. They just do it. Typical engineer conversation with the station manager would be, what? You can't come in until Thursday. Oh, okay. Well, fix the transmitter when you can. The problem with being a disc jockey or talk show host is you talk for a living. That's all you do is you talk. Everybody knows how to talk. And everybody thinks they can do your job. Well, maybe they can. I don't know. All I know is you can't have my gig. I know you want it, but you can't have it. All right. Your comments welcome. Number, again, number 663-1270. The website, supertalk1270.com. And, of course, you can also reach me anytime via Facebook, facebook.com/supertalk1270. Jim Walsh for Supertalk 1270. And we're done. Wow. Time sure does fly when you're under sedation. Have a good one. See you next time.